YouTube, I'm back. Look at that. Who missed me? Who missed me? No one missed me. No one missed me. Anyway, so this is going to be a video response to Secular Numinist. I'm going to have time to do this, and maybe a base cover of Delirium Trigger. But it's raining. Did you guys know it's raining? Anyway, that's why my hair's all wet and out of place and stuff like that. Oh, that's the wrong side. That's the right side. There we go. My hair doesn't look any better. So anyway, I've been really busy, and we're going to get started. Or I'm going to get started. I'm using the royal we. And so let's get started with this response to Secular Numinist. I don't want any distractions, so I just turned off Facebook IM and Skype and all that stuff. So I'm responding to why even anarchists should vote. Now, before I even begin, he made a snarky comment in the comment box that I don't like. Black Acid Lizard said, the reason they don't win elections is because people don't vote for them enough. And he said the reason they don't even stand a chance. And then Secular Numinist said the reason they don't even stand a chance because so many people are apathetic, like the guy I'm responding to. This is ridiculous. They don't win precisely because they cannot win, and the system is inherently against them. There are corporations who have incentives not to let people like Ron Paul win. That's how it is. I don't know how else to say this. I'm not trying to give a really slim defense here, but there's no other way to say that there are third-party interests in politics that will not let Ron Paul win, or if he does win, to not let him do a lot of good. And if he does a lot of good, the public will see it as bad. They have been so ingrained that government is a good thing that any actions he takes and the subsequent collapse that may or may not happen in the few years, it'll be blamed on Ron Paul. It'll be pushing libertarians back years. So many years. I don't even know how many years. But it's not good. And Ron Paul shouldn't be elected. I don't want him to be elected. It'll ruin the libertarian movement. The incentives within the system make the people within it want to keep their power. They don't want to give it up. You can't have Ron Paul saying, let's do this, this, and this. They're just going to get a supermajority and veto it. That's all there is to it. They're just going to keep vetoing it. You know how Ron Paul is Dr. No? They're going to become Dr. No when he gets in charge. And this is assuming Ron Paul could even get past Obama. He won't. There's no way he's going to beat Obama. Not enough people know about him. Not enough people understand him. Not enough people want to understand him. And it's not really going to get to the point where it's going to be any different. And by the time it is, he's going to be, frankly, too old. Or at least in the public's mind. And the media is going to start playing on that. He's going to be too old. So they'll want to keep expanding it. They're not going to let Ron Paul into the race and start decentralizing the government. I think it would be great if government could somehow be decentralized, but it shouldn't be done from the top down. It should be done from the bottom up. Now, not only that, but you completely ignore the validity of Black Acid Lizard's argument, which is that the utility of voting is nil. The marginal utility of voting within the scope of a national election or even a state election is near nil. Maybe in the local elections, but I don't know. That's where the morality problems come in for me. People not voting enough and being apathetic probably represents a few things. They don't like the current system or how it operates and feel like they have little to no power within it. They're not informed enough to make a decision or informed enough to care. They shouldn't be voting anyway. They don't have enough time to care. They shouldn't be voting anyway. They just don't care no matter what. They shouldn't be voting up anyway, etc., etc. So, I mean, except for number one and the etceteras, I don't see a reason why people should be voting. There's too many informational problems with voting. There's too much time going into it to understand all the complex policies and the stuff that's going on in government right now. People are trying to live. You don't have enough time to get all the facts and details on all these candidates. Eventually, you're just going to either make a subpar vote, or you're not going to make a vote at all. Now, again, I'm only indifferent to useless strategies. Voting is useless. So if I'm called apathetic to voting, then I'm a proud damn apathetic person from voting, being what it is right now. You said, why can't you do both? Why are they mutually exclusive? We talked about this on Facebook since, but let's talk about it again. Because voting means, whether you admit it or not, you support someone in the system. That you're using politics to further your goal when politics only bends or destroys your principles in the most destructive ways, from within. You begin to compromise your ideas. You begin to start... This isn't living practically. Compromising your ideas every step of the way and making them less and less what they're actually supposed to be is not practical. This isn't practical. This is suicide. This is ideological suicide. The value of the vote for nobody campaign. I want to talk about this. I think that there is value in what Brad Spangler's doing, and I full-heartedly support it. And I don't know why you think it's such a bad idea. Of course, people are going to vote for other people anyway, but I think if you had gone to their site and looked at their FAQ, and I've linked their site, so I don't know why you didn't, or why you couldn't have gotten more info before you said this was a bad idea. But they respond. He has responded to a good amount of objections, and I'd like you to look at it if you're going to criticize it, so you at least have some detail. Background on it. But yeah, I think the Vote for Nobody campaign is very important. I think it should be done. I think stuff like this is important because, you know, nobody should be in control of us. Nobody should be nobody should be wanting to take power like this, especially not if you're an anarchist or a libertarian. It just doesn't make any logical sense. So I think the value of the Vote for Nobody is pretty high, for other reasons too, but I'm not going to get into them because, well, I don't have a lot of time. So you said the country will go to hell. Well, not so. And even if it does go to hell, I think this is why building a counter-economy or a new society within the shell of the old is a great idea, and one that will help protect the fallout. There's a good article called When State-Capitalism Fails, We Have Each Other by Darian Warden, which I'm going to link in the description. You should check it out. It has some of the good ideas that I'm talking about here. But basically, we should be building up mutual aid associations and stuff like that. So, you know, there's already a lot of that within the society already, or within the libertarian and anarchist community. So I think it's important to begin the new society within the shell of the old in whatever way you practically can. Now, you said having a say is important, but this begs the question, how much of a say do us as anarchists have? Obviously not much, since politicians either don't know what anarchism actually is, or even they do, they don't take it so seriously, like Ron Paul. Even if they were minarchists like Ron Paul, it makes no difference due to the inherent systematic constraints that corporate interests, lobbyists, other politicians, and the ignorant public put on them. It's too many external pressures and internal pressures. There's not going to be a lot of change coming. You said it will help at least to minimize the damage. Not really. The system makes it so their work is working upstream, and it's a battle they just won't win. Any damage they do minimize will be going against the system, and if the public is really favoring such libertarian policies, then now is better time than ever to build the counter-economy and not waste time on politics. You said, it's true I don't want either to win, but that doesn't mean I'm not going to be doing nothing about it, or that voting for someone else makes a difference. It's a false dichotomy between shrugging my shoulders and voting for someone else. We both like the alternatives such as direct action, dual power, agorism, and education, so don't be dishonest and pretend they're not there. Gaining ground. You're presupposing that the system in which they function actually allows for change via voting. What happened when people like Thomas Jefferson got in? He's supposed to be a great, he's basically Ron Paul. He has a lot of similar thoughts like Ron Paul does, and he might have today. Did he reduce government in any meaningful way? Not that I'm aware of. In fact, he started one of the first imperialist wars of the American Empire, had high tariffs, and had many Native Americans killed. What a savior. There's also a great link by Radgeek called Shut the Fuck Up, which I'm going to link to you. Now, are you really conflating the failures of states and the success of anarchism? This is like a fallacy of statist 101. I'm for an evolution both in people and in institutions, not a sudden loss of government with no alternatives in sight. So no government does not equal anarchy, nor is there ever a truly free market if no one is actually trying to build it within the shell of the old society. That's the point. And another reason why voting is worthless, because it's not just getting in line and making a decision. It's finding out the necessary info, donating, spreading word, campaigning, and then getting in line. There's a lot more than just voting. You don't just go up to the ballot and vote for whoever you think. You have to actually research it, look into it, look at your options. It's a lot more time consuming than you guys are trying to make it look like. And by you guys, I mean the pro-voting people. Minimal government, you talked about that. Perhaps not as inclined, but they certainly see it as necessary, and it's dangerous to ally in any serious manner with minarchists when they're not trying to ride the A train, which is a good metaphor used by Radgeek, which I'm also going to link. Agorism, dual action. I'm going to actually link a new article to dual action or dual power, but you've already seen it, so it'll be for other people. Direct action, civil disobedience, and education can all lead to minimal government, and finally, not all, in a much more voluntary, peaceful, less morally ambiguous way than voting than what you're trying to do through voting. Quote, you said, might as well be you. Might as well be nobody, which is why the campaign for nobody is a good idea to begin with, because nobody should have this sort of power over us. And admitting it's imposing your will on others, it just admits the immorality of the tactics of voting. You can't force people to be free. You can't force people to look at your preferences and say, oh yeah, I should be doing that, and you should do it from the top down. No, you should do it from the bottom up. Convince people, associate in voluntary ways, and show them that this works. You don't force them through politics. You don't. It's not going to work. It's not practical. It's not moral. It's at least morally ambiguous, if not immoral. And nobody is the only person I trust to rule me. Now, you talked about legitimacy. Ultimately, the legitimacy of the politician is irrelevant, which is again why voting makes no difference and why it should not be tried. A lot of anarchists didn't want to vote. You know, you said this, and you said it as if that it doesn't make a difference to the politicians. No shit, but that's not the point of not voting. It's not to get the attention of voting. It's to ignore them in as much as is practical and live our lives as freely as possible without politics. Politics being, you know, the sphere of voting that we're talking about, elections and all that. Now, if you're still not convinced, and I'm sure you're not, you know, this isn't going to probably convince anyone. And I've just gotten tired of voting. I've gotten tired of arguing with pro-voting people. I really have. And I'm sure they're tired of it, discussing with me. So I don't have anything else to say to you, man. If you think voting is a good idea, go for it. It's not going to work. Nothing's going to happen, and you're just going to come back disgruntled. If you say voting just takes 5 minutes, you're not really voting. You're just making a choice, and you're not even really looking into your options. You're just being dishonest and disingenuous. But I still respect you. I don't want this to come across nasty and that kind of stuff. But, you know, I don't respect voting. So I'm not hating the sinner, I'm just hating the sin. Not that I believe in that nonsense, but, you know, it's just a metaphor. But if you're still not convinced, and I'm sure you're not, that's fine. I'm not convinced by your arguments either. And that's why I'm not going to continue this debate, because I don't want us to waste our time. I have a few voting articles on a blog site called Discourses on Liberty, and I want you to read both posts. And if you're still not convinced, then, you know, just forget about it, man, because we're not going to convince each other. I'm fairly certain of that. You had some decent arguments, and nothing I've never heard before, but decent arguments nonetheless. And that's really about it. So if you want, you can send me a private message. We can talk on Facebook, but I'm not doing any more YouTube videos on this. This is just a waste of time. We're not going to convince each other. I might convince a viewer, and I appreciate, by the way, linking my 2 videos, because I got a lot more views. So thanks for that. And that was probably the best thing that came out of this. So thank you, and thanks for the response, man. I appreciate it.